Through staff at Dartech, Joe was introduced to another unscrupulous character with some highly interesting connections. His name was Dr. Gerald Davidson, although information on Dr. Davidson is scant at best, and even the most thorough researchers have had a hard time digging into his past at all.
I have been looking into him because this was the rabbit hole I had entered in, because we talked about this as we did our production call, and we wanted to do the story of Joe Ricci, and then as we went through it, we're like, well, but there's the guy that the second half of this team is Dr. Gerald Davidson.
Gerald Davidson is the co-founder of the Elan School.
Right? But no one knows anything about him?
Very little about him.
I mean this. It is almost suspicious in the level at which he is not present anywhere on the internet. And I found a bunch of essentially like
as in suspicious forums. As if the CIA did a little scrub job.
Well, he had a lot of weird connections. He definitely went and served on the board of the Harvard School of Medicine around the same exact time a bunch of other fucking horrible assholes did. He was probably taught by B.F. Skinner. He also had this guy named Matthew Israel, who is one of the single most, we should do a whole episode on him. Yeah. He is literally one of the single most evil people I have ever heard of. He started a thing called the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center, where they basically electroshock children into changing them. And then a lot of like autistic kids and shit like that. And it is brutal. It's still, I want to say it's open until they've tried to close that one 4 times. And I believe it is still open. No, they keep trying to close it. They keep trying to close it.
Turn the lock.
It's closed. It makes a lot of people money, though.
Oh, I see. So you're telling me Harvard, the place financed by Jeffrey Epstein that produced Alan Dershowitz, might have some corrupt foundations?
Same years that Ted Kaczynski went for the various, the tests he was taking during the MK Ultra years,
the tests that destroyed him, that weren't necessarily related to MK Ultra, but it's all that same like behavioral type of experimentation. Because that's the thing, is that it's not necessarily that this guy was involved in MK Ultra, but what we can say,
a lot of his buddies were.
Well, that's the thing. What I think we can say for certain, it's what we also said in the MK Ultra series. They all went to the same parties. Like this guy is going to the same parties as the guys doing the MK Ultra experiment. They're all talking about it. They're all saying what they're doing. And that's the thing, is that a lot of the MK Ultra guys also didn't even know they were being funded by the CIA. Yes, but there was this kind of revolution of behavioral science way back in the 50s, and Gerald Davidson was one of those people.
It would be interesting punch bowl conversation, that's for sure.
I guess watch the punch, because you are going to become a Manchurian candidate in a second, but it's going to be a failed one. It's mostly going to be getting pizza for Dr. Davidson.
That sucks.
But these guys, he wrote this article, like one of the little, because people were looking for like anything that you could hang your hat on about him, and he did write because what they say was a publish or perish is what they say at the Harvard School of Medicine. So everyone's like, well, if he was with Harvard, he would have published, but he did publish several articles, and one was basically saying, and I might be getting this wrong, but it does seem to basically say that a lot of when people come in with what he called quote unquote functional body complaints, which we now call like something like chronic fatigue syndrome or pain. And he basically said all of that is depression, and that we can fix you, and that you'll stop complaining about physical maladies once we fix your mental problems.
Let me guess how they fixed it. Electroshock therapy.
Yeah.
Cool.
And also behavior modification. So whoever this motherfucker is, whoever Gerald Davidson is, because he died in 91. Yeah. So we think that maybe it was like before, because as we're going to get into the end of this episode, the internet's what stopped all this shit. So there's these guys that kind of slipped through the cracks. But this guy is shit. It's just like, he is so shady. And so as you go deeper into the topic, you start to see more and more people being like, was the Elan School some form of behavioral science experiment that we were all a part of? Like, and the big question is the big old fun, which we learned about the MK Ultra is that it's more questions than not. You're going to be walking through a labyrinth of mirrors for a really long time trying to figure it out, because they got rid of a lot of these records.
I am sorry. It sounds like you're a man on the precipice of divorce.
That's what I literally joked with Natalie. I was watching that documentary, I was doing something else, and I was just like, all that keeps me from the edge is the fact that you love me. And she looked at me and she did the thing. She's like, I love you. And I was just like, just know every single time I'm in one of these places, just show me your boobies, because that'll bring me back in. Like, just
she
remind
told
me,
you to show you her boobies.
I asked to see boobies.
Fantastic.
And she obliged.
That's fantastic.
That's really
Hey, Steve, it pulls me back from the abyss.
Yeah, I can tell. It's definitely worked.
No, you just got to get into this shit because it's just wild. It's just, you can't. If you got anything on him, side stories, LPOTL@gmail.com. Send them to me.
Please do. And I think at the very least, or maybe even at the very most, you could possibly say that perhaps the Elan School, even though it was founded long after most of the MK Ultra experiments were over, you could possibly say that the Elan School was started as some sort of behavioral modification experiment, or at least a data gathering center.
Is deep. That's deep into conspiracy theory territory, but it tracks because we see how that's their MO.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that. It's really that deep. You know, it could have been.
Something.
It could have been started and then it was eventually just abandoned, like the CIA abandoned. I mean, hell, the CIA provably infiltrates governments and then abandons them to complete and total chaos.
Job horribly done. Let's go.
Let's go. Good work, everybody. Copters out. All right. So let the junta's rising and is getting to the Capitol building.
Yeah.
Well, I think I hear the helicopter.
Well, you got to go to that Pizza Hut.
And so, of course, after these things are abandoned by the CIA, of course, they've left it in a state of total chaos. It just keeps going. And that's possibly why there's never been any real government investigation into the Elan schools.
Also,
is because they might look back and see some government connection way back in the beginning.
And then you start following the money.
Yes.
People like the DuPonts that actually started the seed program. There was like all of this shit. Where
why don't we just jump out of the hole? Let's jump out of the hole. Let's get back to Earth.
I thought the hole's where all the fucking carrots are, bro.
Yeah, you said a bunch of shit about carrots and I'm just covered in shit. I'm just covered in shit. I'm panicking.
Let's just, you know what we're going to do? Oh, I can't believe our friend's dead. Bury him.
Bury him.
So we're going to bury it. And let's just, now we're on solid ground again.
Solid ground.
Wow.
Solid ground.
Wow. Because for a second there, I felt like
You're back.
I felt like I was in a mirror land.
Yeah, I felt it. I actually felt that for you. Yeah.
Now, from Dartech, Ricci moved to a drug counseling center called Survival Inc., which was a group home for opiate-addicted men that doubled as a marriage counseling service for drug addicts.
Wait, they're married?
Some drug addicts are married, yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, anytime you get one guy, they throw another, it's like when you go to a hotel and something you're like, for $15, we'll put water in the room. You know what I mean? Like something like that, where you just do a little add-on, a little update.
I see. So marriage therapy, that's nice.
Yeah, it is actually a good idea. Someone goes in a rehab and you bring the spouse in every once in a while, just say like, hey, let's work through this thing.
Okay.
They help to understand each other.
All right, good.
But as it would happen again and again, controversy followed Joe Ricci when 3 staff members he brought from Dartech were fired for personal drug use.
Also, it kind of talks about it is interesting because a lot of times those addictive relationships are kind of circular, right? So because you're both addicted to the drugs, and in quite a lot of times is that you find that your relationship's kind of like empty when you're both not high.
Yeah,
and then that was what brought you together, and now you have to figure out. Can we love?
Probably not.
Yeah,
probably not.
different.
Probably just need to get a divorce at that point.
At that point, yeah. If you need drugs to be together, then you need to get someone else who you can hang out with when you don't need drugs. Yeah, sober. Yeah.
Well, you guys need your antipsychotics to be among society.
I don't take antipsychotics.
I'll take a fucking psychotic. Take one right now. I feel like I've taken like 8 since you've been talking.
Yeah, I know. I am upset by myself.
Okay, I don't take antipsychotics anymore.
Okay. See?
We are above ground now, guys. we are good. Flowers grow.
You don't even wake up. Socialism is not even what they call it over there.
Again?
All right, it's different. That is what liberalism has used to call what we call the dictatorship person over there.
Look at the grass growing on the ground. Wow.
Well, after those friends were fired, Ricci, his wife, and Dr. Gerald Davidson decided to open their own treatment facility, which would evolve into the Elan School. Now, since the regulations for mental health were a little too restrictive in New York, Connecticut, and Massachusetts for the kind of quote-unquote radical therapy that Joe and Dr. Davidson wanted to do.
Yeah, they just flipped to page 8 and they're like, no anal? How the hell are we going to treat these kids?
It's a no gay policy.
Oh, man.
Well, after that, they decided to open their facility in Maine, where none of those pesky regulations would get in the way.
The freedom of skeleton land.
Beautiful place.
But when it came to who did what, it's important to remember that Dr. Gerald Davidson was not in any way involved in the day-to-day operations at Elan. Instead, Davidson was more of a scooper of students who stayed in Massachusetts and used his contacts to both develop the facility from afar and find some funnels for kids.
That's called human trafficking, isn't it?
No, not when everyone's purchased.
He's a scooper. So no, officer, I'm not a human trafficker. I'm a scooper.
And like, as long as you get an ice cream scoop, right, the size of a person, and show it to a government officer, they let you go.
Okay.
He might have dipped a little bit of a toe in some form of the operations, but truly, all of the statements was that he was never seen. It's very strange,
Penguin's henchman when he wanted to go collect the firstborn of Gotham. He was that guy, right?